And so it's always a privilege and an honor to speak to you, and I'll come back every time you invite me, and I appreciate you for the opportunity to address you on this day, on this occasion. Thank you so much.
Now getting to Rabbi Abadie, a physician specializing in internal medicine and gastroenterology. Even while attending his first year of medical school, he had a calling to help create a community of individuals as well, and a synagogue in Chicago. In addition to his thriving medical practice, he was in as the founding rabbi and spiritual leader of the Edmund K. Safra Synagogue. The rabbi has continued on his family legacy of having a rabbi in almost every generation. He comes from a long and distinguished rabbinical lineage dating back, amazingly, to the 15th century. He is the director of the Jacob E. Safra Institute of Sephardic Studies, as well as a scholar and college teacher of Judaism, of history, of philosophy, and comparative traditional law. Amazing, amazing history. Now, Rabbi Scholar, the executive vice president of the Chai Lifeline, a renowned lecturer and an author. Through his direction and efforts at Chai Lifeline, seriously ill children receive critical health support services. Under his leadership, the organization helps more than 4,000 children with life-threatening and lifelong illnesses. He believes that every child deserves as happy and normal a childhood as possible and tries hard to make that a reality through camps, through trips, and through recreational activities. Rabbi Scholar also understands how pediatric illness affects every member of a family. He is a strong advocate for creative, innovative, and effective family-centered programs aimed at supporting both a sick child and the entire family. It is clear that Rabbi Scholar has a passion for helping kids and bringing a little joy to their lives, even in the most difficult of times.
Esteemed rabbis, honorable senators, congressmen, distinguished guests, dear friends. First, let me say thank you all for this honor. I'm humbled by this recognition, and I'm proud to be here today representing the Sephardic Jewish community as we celebrate Jewish Heritage Month. Perhaps one of the most famous Sephardic Jews in American history is Emma Lazarus. She's best known for her words on the Statue of Liberty, which begin with, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." There is, however, another very important quote from Miss Lazarus which rings true even today. "Jews are the intensive form of any nationality whose language and customs they adopt." As a Sephardic Jew, I am proud to say that we have been an integral part of American life since before the days of the Declaration of Independence. We have contributed to its success in many ways, through the arts, sciences, industry, economy, political, and spiritual leadership. As Americans and as Jews, we all share eternal values of freedom, justice, and the right to practice our religion openly and without any prejudices. Let us continue enjoying these privileges by praying for the sustainability of the United States so that we can further contribute to this great nation. May this country continue to be a beacon of freedom to all oppressed people and a shining example of hope, liberty, and justice for all. Freedom and liberty are hallmark of our Jewish tradition. The birth of our people nation took place when our ancestors were freed from the bondage of ancient Egypt. That national experience, embedded in our national psyche, has formed and shaped us as a people. An entire holiday, namely the Passover holiday, celebrates that, and our liturgical prayers mention it on a daily basis. It is therefore painful to me personally, and I believe to the Jewish community, to be celebrating Jewish Heritage Month while two of our core religionists are still in bondage, unable to celebrate that heritage. Jonathan Pollard and Alan Gross. The freedom of both is dependent on the will of the United States government. Jonathan Pollard, now in his 28th year in prison, has served long enough, and the longest of any other person charged with espionage. Mind you, he has never charged with that. Jonathan Pollard never had a trial. At the request of both the US and Israeli government, he entered into a plea agreement which spared both governments a long, difficult, expensive, and potentially embarrassing trial. Jonathan Pollard fulfilled his end of the plea agreement, cooperating fully with the prosecution. Nevertheless, Pollard received a life sentence and a recommendation that he never be paroled, in complete violation of the plea agreement he had reached with the government. Jonathan Pollard was never indicted for harming the United States. He was never indicted for compromising codes, agents, or war plans. He was never charged with treason. He was indicted only for one charge, one count of passing classified information to an ally without intent to harm the United States. Jonathan Pollard has repeatedly expressed his remorse publicly and in private letters to the President and others. He regrets having broken the law and is sorry that he did not find a legal means to act upon his concerns for Israel. President Clinton, in spite of his repeated express commitments to Israel to free Pollard in return for numerous heavy concessions, in spite of his commitment to free Pollard as an integral part of the Y Accords, and in spite of the appeals of 5 Israeli prime ministers and 3 Israeli presidents and the Jewish community, President Clinton never kept his promises. This is, in my eyes, a grave miscarriage of justice. This brings me to the case of Alan Gross, an American social worker and international development professional, where in December 2009 he was arrested while in Cuba as a contractor for the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, as part of a program funded under the 1996 Helms-Burton Act managed by the U.S. State Department. Gross was working with Development Alternatives, a contractor working with USAID, who won a contract, U.S. government contract for the program in which Gross was involved, a controversial, quoting a newspaper, democracy promoting program to provide communications equipment to break the Cuban government's information blockade. USAID $20 million Cuba program, authorized by a law calling for regime change in Cuba, has been criticized repeatedly in congressional reports as being wasteful and ineffective and putting people in danger. Gross's wife called her husband a pawn in a failed policy between the Cuban and American government, adding, the trial wasn't about him, it was about USAID and US policy towards Cuba. On March 12, 2011, Gross was sentenced to 15 years in prison. According to the Cuban news agency, has been part of a subversive project of the US government. Today, as we celebrate Jewish Heritage Month, we ask the government of the United States to see to its humanitarian virtue, to work tirelessly and seriously at not shirk its responsibilities to secure and obtain the freedom of Alan Gross. He was like a soldier in the US war for democracy, and therefore the US should not leave him behind. It is the ultimate responsibility of the US not to leave any of its soldiers behind. As to Jonathan Pollard, it's about time that he should be released for the sake of true justice and clemency, and for the sake of keeping the promises of a US president. We call upon the government of the US to free Jonathan Pollard. The freedom of Alan Gross. The freedom of Alan Gross and Jonathan Pollard will render our celebration more complete. Again, thank you for choosing me to receive this honor on behalf of the Sephardic Jewish community, and congratulations to all my fellow honorees.
Thank you. It's yours.
Scholar.
It's a dangerous thing to give a rabbi a free speech.
Two microphones.
And 2 microphones, right? It truly is a great privilege to be here today, as I have the privilege of representing 4,500 families of children that are suffering a life-threatening illness. And I think one of the critical messages of American democracy is that we have the ability to reach limits that are unlimited. That we have the capability of doing whatever we wish to do within the parameters of society. And this unique privilege that we have and this unbelievable opportunity that we have been given, and we have produced incredible results in philanthropy and communal service and overall social consciousness, is just an imperative message for a family that is undergoing a crisis. If a country can do it, if a culture can thrive within a country can do it, surely an individual can do it. So it's really not just an individual honor, and not just a communal honor, and not just a message of the month, but it's really a preamble message of a history of a people, that we can do the unlimited, and we can reach heights that are totally unfathomable. All we have to do is come together as we're doing today, as a community from all different stripes, and in this incredible rainbow, to muster our strength and to go forward for the ultimate goal, which is the good of all mankind. Thank you.